So originally I was going to talk about being an artist in 2024, what you need to know, what you need to do, etc., etc. And then I realised this shouldn't be an advice video. This is really a reflection video, or should be a reflection video, just kind of figuring out what the hell I'm doing, because I've been doing this art thing sort of semi full time now for 24 years, I want to say, or at least I had my first ever paid job around 24, 25 years ago when I was a teen, late teen, early 20s. And yeah, I've never found it easy to be an artist, and it's just getting harder and harder. As soon as I start to feel like successes are on the way, or I've just had a little bit of success and expect, it to be the start of the ball rolling, the ball just comes to a stop, and I'm having to reassess what the hell I'm doing. So yeah, this is really just kind of reflecting on past failures, successes, and then trying to figure out where I go from here. This has been something I've been thinking about for quite a long time now, and I'm kind of at a point where, well, I have to make a decision. Do I continue to do the art thing in whatever capacity, hopefully in some kind of full-time capacity as a professional, and actually get paid for what I can do, or do I just completely give it up? Obviously I don't like the sound of just giving up something that I've spent countless hours sort of practicing and honing. I might not be the best artist in the world, I'm definitely not by a long stretch, but I got to a point recently, say over the last year or two, where I feel like I can now do the kinds of stuff that I've always kind of wanted, or at least the sort of stuff that I dreamed I could do when I was a kid. Because back then I couldn't draw, didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I kind of liked it anyway. And even though I wasn't great at it, I was probably better than the average kid in my class, and I guess it was the one small thing that I had going for me. So I kind of thought, yeah, okay, let's pursue this to some degree and see where I can get with it. And yeah, this is kind of like just me reflecting on that journey and trying to figure out kind of where it all went wrong, or maybe highlighting some of the points where it didn't go wrong, because along the way I have had some successes. So like I say, I started doing art, or at least had my first sort of paid job, small little paid job. I think the first job I ever had was like a CD cover for a band. So yeah, it was a small time thing, and I was actually quite happy to get it. And when you get your first job, you think, all right, yeah, I can do this. I can make a living as an artist, because this is the proof in concept, really. Before then, you're just kind of drawing for fun, and until you actually get paid, it's only ever a hobby. I think, just to start with, the first issue I probably had was getting work as quickly as I did. It wasn't great work, we're talking £50 for a CD cover. I think before that, when I was at school, I had one of my teachers ask to paint a picture for her grandson or nephew or something like that, and I think I charged about £25 for that. I had another friend, I think it was his mum, that wanted a picture of the family cat, and I think I ended up getting about £30 or £40 for that. So I mean, back in the day, this was like, I don't know, 2000. This was probably late 1990s, early 2000s. So even with the money I got, I mean, it wasn't like I was getting paid that every day. I mean, even if I did, I don't know, I think if I got £50 a day back in 1999, that probably would have been enough to survive on as an adult, maybe just scraping by, but barely. But the thing was, it wasn't regular. It was just, I had a job once, and then months went by until the next one. But I mean, it's good. Gives you a little boost, gives you a little sense of accomplishment, sort of understanding that you're not just doing this for yourself, but you can actually use the skills you've acquired to some extent to provide value in someone else's life. So I always kind of thought, yeah, okay, let's try and make this work. So like, I don't even know where to start, because I've had so many art related jobs over the years. I could sort of describe myself as an illustrator, a website designer, graphic designer. I've done a bit of animation. I was working as a kitchen designer at one point. I've done a little bit of interior design and a tiny bit of 3D. And I even worked as a tattoo artist. So pretty much it fits art related. I've probably done the job in some capacity at some point. And that's to say, got paid for it, for doing it rather than just experimenting. I mean, the interior design, in fact, I did a bit of that quite recently, and that was just for personal reasons. It wasn't a paid job. Everything else, I've made some money on. So I'm pretty well versed in the different artistic disciplines that there are out there. It's just maybe the reason that I've never felt I've nailed it and had, that kind of long-term stable success that I think every artist would ideally like. Certainly, just being able to live, pay the bills, know how much money's coming in every month, that'd be great. It's not typically something that most freelancers, especially freelance artists, ever get the chance to experience, especially to begin with in their careers. But yeah, I think that's never really been anything I've managed to experience full on in my career. There's normally periods where I've done the how to draw books. They're going to pop up on the screen at some point, just a photo of some of those, just to give you a little idea. Some of the how to draw manga books. So I was doing that. I wasn't ready to teach how to draw, but there was an opportunity there. It presented itself. A publisher contacted me, reached out, and I agreed to do these books. And that was an example of a job where, they come to me, they said, do you want effectively 6 months of work? And I was like, yes, okay. And then it all worked out, and that's great. And those are the jobs that ideally I think an artist would like frequently, to have a regular supply of client work. And it's quite funny, I listen to a lot of other YouTubers and artists speaking about their successes on the internet, because I think that's the thing. If you find an artist who has 1 million followers, their perspective on their journey through the art industry is going to be completely different to someone who, I mean, I don't even know if I'm represented. I don't know how many artists there are who have had a kind of career either in art or sort of dabbling around the fringes for well over 20 years, but has got that hasn't kind of, I guess you could say, made it. I'm sure there are people that are like that, but I mean, I don't know any, because they're not the sort of people that would ever that people would ever find on the internet, because why would they? They're just unknown people. Like, I mean, I'm at a point now where if I post a video on YouTube, it probably will get, I don't know, 30 to 50 likes, and I don't know what the view, in fact that might even be views. Yeah, 30 to 50 views, maybe only a couple of likes, something like that. If I was to post on TikTok or something, it would be a little bit more. Maybe a few hundred people would view it, maybe 10 people would like it. It's bare bones, hardly even worth bothering with. Hardly, no one's really even acknowledging you. It's kind of like you pop up. Most people would scroll but past. A few people would look and go, "Oh, that's quite good," and then just move on to something better. And fair enough. Like, this isn't a well-produced, polished video. I haven't got a B-reel or special effects and pyrotechnics, and I don't even know how to present myself, because I've always just been someone who sort of likes to just get his head down, do his work, present what I've got to. What I've either drawn or written, and just say, here it is. I'm not a presenter. I'm not. So I mean, this is probably one of the reasons why the YouTube thing never picked off. I mean, I haven't really done a lot with it. I haven't really tried to make it a success or anything. It's really just been a background thing. It's sort of like, okay, in the background, I think I'll try giving that a go. Like it's like all the social medias. I've been on Instagram, Twitter, and or X, and Facebook. Like I said, TikTok, YouTube, Tumblr, even Kara recently. Few others like DeviantArt, ArtStation. I've done the rounds, but I've never necessarily thought, right, this is going to be the platform that I concentrate on. I mean, if anything, the platform I concentrate on is my own personal website. So that's something that I've had going on quite a while. So yeah, I mean, just backtracking a little bit. So I said, like I say, I had my first art commission. Let's make it easy. I think I was around, I want to say around 20 years old in the year 2000. That's not quite right, but round it off. It makes sense then. I mean, you get the idea that I've been in the game now for decades, rather than, I'm new to this thing. Like a lot of still 16, 17-year-olds that want to become artists. So yeah, I started doing the web thing, and it's a kind of weird story as well, because I think that's another thing. Normally, with people that get a lot of success, the 1 million fans or whatever, the sort of people that you might see popping up in your news feeds if you're ever to look at artists and see what everyone else is doing. Like a lot of those people, they either made it early on. Let's just say, they started in the year 2000, but then by the time it's 2005, they became established, and from that point onwards, they're doing their thing. They kind of maintain a certain level of popularity, and the career works out, or it doesn't. And then normally for people, if it doesn't, that's it. They have to pack up, do other things. For some weird reason, I've decided to just carry on with the art thing, and even though I've kind of always just been on the cusp of kind of making it or having some success, but then the next year just none at all, and there's various reasons for that, which I could go into later. But so yeah, you've got the artists who got established early on, say the people who started when I did, and then if not, you tend to drop off the map. And then more recently, it's just going to be the people that started wanting to get into the art game, say, 2020 or just a few years before that, and maybe they've been doing their thing for sort of 5 years, 7 years, and they're kind of where they're at now. And if and there are people probably who maybe wanted to get into the art game several years ago and just got to a point where now, today, they're just thinking, I can't do this, I can't sustain this, because it's one of these professions where if you're really fucking good at it, then you can succeed. Same with anything, really. But if you're just good at it, it doesn't really work out. Basically, all the spoils, all the riches, all the clients, all the work, all the money, all the success, that tends to go towards just the top tier, the top, to give it a percentage, maybe like the top 10%, maybe even less, maybe in the top 1%. If there's a million artists, or say 100,000 artists, you're only going to get 1,000 artists or 100,000 artists, depending what you're measuring by. You're going to get 1% of people that actually succeed. The vast majority of people just are going to struggle, and they're going to maybe put in a good effort, and then they're just going to realise, it didn't work out, and then they'll move on to other things. Or there'll be the people that are probably just, they're not in the top 10%, or they're not in the top 1%, but they're not in the bottom 50% either. They're kind of, doing some decent stuff, and there's ways to make it work if you're doing some sort of half decent work. You're not going to be the sort of person who's going to go down in history, but you are the sort of person who could potentially find a smaller client to do some work for, and that if there's enough of these smaller clients, you could make a living being an artist. But it's never going to be particularly easy, I think. So so yeah, the one I think, talking about successes though, starting back in 2000, I was one of the originators, one of the early artists who decided to adopt the internet. Like, I remember being at school, just sort of finishing up, and I don't think anyone in my entire school, and we're talking several hundred kids, I don't think any, I mean maybe, but as far as I was aware, none of them had a website, or any, or social media. Social media didn't exist in 2000, but let's just pretend it did. Like, most kids today have social media at least, and at least one account on one platform. But yeah, back when I was trying to do the art thing, I was the only kid that really did it, as far as I knew. And because I used to just like technology, and I used to like computers and stuff as well. So I think as well, I was one of the only kids at school who did any digital art. Every single kid back in the late 90s, like, none of them really did digital art. Like, this is back in the day of Photoshop version 4, not CS4, but just 4. Because I remember having a friend of mine, he was into computers, and he managed to get me a pirate version of Photoshop 4 LE, I think it was called. And because I had seen a tutorial, again, before YouTube and video tutorials existed, I saw some very basic fan tutorial on a little personal website teaching how to draw, and it mentioned using Photoshop, and I was like, wow, I want to get this Photoshop thing and learn how to do it. And like I say, I didn't know anyone who knew what the hell Photoshop was, or there wasn't any digital software. Stuff like Procreate and Clip Studio, and none of that even existed back in the late 90s. So yeah, I was a big fan of the old digital stuff, whether it was digital art or computers and the internet. And so I started getting into a bit of digital art. I mean, this is very basic stuff. And also created my first website probably back in like 1998. It was a GeoCities website. For anyone who doesn't know, GeoCities used to be it was kind of like Squarespace, or I'm trying to think of these big just these platforms where you can just sign up, get a website, WordPress, that kind of thing. And most people, if they wanted a website but they didn't want to pay someone or learn to code, or if you just wanted a website, you could get one of these GeoCity websites, and it had a sort of drop and drag editor, which was a big deal back then. Most sites didn't have that, but the drop and drag editor was not very good, and it got to the point where the site that I had was pretty crappy, and I decided I would make another one. And then I did go away, learn to code, and then I came back and made a website, and then I made another one, and then another one. So I'm no stranger to web design if I have to do it. Although web design was never the goal. Like, I did work as a web designer, like I say, for about 4 years, but I only did that because it was something that I learned to do, not because I wanted to, but it was a means to an end. It was a way of sort of connecting the world or people with what I was producing art-wise. I just wanted to show the artwork I was doing, as crap as it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was I was happy with it, and when you're a bit of a kid, you just think you're amazing if you can. Whatever stage you're at, if it's the best stage you've ever been at, and you can see the progress, you're thinking, wow, look how much I've progressed. I mean, especially I used to keep my old pencil drawings from the early 90s, and so from the age of around sort of 10 years old, and I used to have a record of how I to some degree progressed. And by the time I was doing digital stuff 10 years later, I thought I was amazing. I wasn't at all. I might even embarrass myself by showing some of my old artwork at some point, like the really old stuff. But yeah, So anyway, started having my own websites and doing digital stuff. Basically, like I say, no one was really doing it. Everyone was so late to the party. Like 90% of the world, it seemed like they didn't even know what the internet was. I mean, anyone who wanted an art career. I mean, it started, people started to consider, oh, maybe I should get a website, but the idea of search engine optimization or anything like that just would never have crossed anyone's minds, because you had to do all this stuff manually yourself. If you had a GeoCities website, or even if you built your own HTML page with your own domain name, and you coded it yourself, you still needed to know how to update your meta tags and descriptions and keywords and the rest of it. So all this stuff this was all new, just coming in as I was sort of becoming an adult and deciding what the hell I was going to do with myself, and that was a sort of path that I took for a while. It was doing the website designing, but as part of having a website online, I had a publisher find my work and then contact me and gave me a project, or and that ended up being a sort of series of how to draw books. And I had several other people contact me through my website, being one of the few people that had a website, and ask for sort of semi small unserious projects. I never had huge brands contact me, and I think at this point you probably still had like illustration agencies and game studios weren't scouting online for talent or whatever. They were hiring locally. So if you ran a video game studio in London or New York, you'd be expected to live in London and New York, so you could go to the studio, go to the office every day and work there. But yeah, it's kind of funny how it's changed so much. So yeah, I mean that's the one key thing I did, I think, was have a website, and I had it early, like really, really early, and I was willing to put the effort in to learn how to make a website. I think because for most artists, if you're that kind of creative type, you probably want to just make cool looking pictures or throw paint around on a canvas. You don't want to sit there learning the kind of mathematical measurements of margins and footers and placements of boxes or whatever it is with a HTML page. So yeah, I think that kind of really paid dividends in the end. But I think the trouble was, even though I was kind of on the forefront of creating a web presence for myself in the early days, the standard of my art wasn't great. I know I said I thought it was good back in the day, but it wasn't. And so I think I probably would have been a lot better off just honing my craft for a few years, just going away, get my head down and working, just learning to get better at the one thing that I was trying to sell myself for. But like I say, it was a bit, I mean, that might have happened, but I kind of ended up just getting thrown into this, like the publisher would come along and say, oh, we see you've got a website, we see you do this kind of manga style stuff, do you want to draw some instructional books? And it's like, I'm sort of thinking, I don't know, not really. And they're like, oh, we'll give you money, we'll pay you. And I was like, pay me? What, you mean I don't have to have a job? I don't have to go to a place of work and be an employed person. I can just be self-employed and work from home. I thought this was great. So I did it, but yeah, I do get a few people now that have my old books. In fact, most people that have my old books or kind of know about me will say that they enjoyed the books and they got something out of it and it helped them back in the day when they were a kid or whatever. So that makes up like 99% of people. But sometimes people just say, what the hell is this? This is not good. And I have to agree, it wasn't good. And even the later books that I ended up doing sort of years and years later, there's still a few issues with them. But I guess the one good thing is when you've done a project like a how to draw book, and if it's not perfect, I think it gives, and this isn't me just trying to justify, I think this is genuine, like it gives people the sense that, oh, I could probably do this, because they probably look at it and think, okay, it's all right, he can do some half decent artwork, but he's not amazing. He's not so far out of my league that I could never get to this level. So I think if you're of a certain age or a certain standard or mentality, then it's good to have something that's like a presentation, a tutorial that's not by a pro who's a million miles away. Trouble as well with when you've got people that are just naturally really talented or have been working at their craft for long enough that they've became quite a high level artist or high level in their field. Those types of people, like, firstly, the people that got there quite easily because they had that natural talent, they don't really know how to necessarily teach something. Because typically the type of people that would go for a how to draw book or any kind of guidebook are people who just can't figure it out themselves, and they're struggling. So that's not, I don't think you really want to go to people who are naturally amazing at it. I mean, I might be wrong. I mean, I've not checked out other tutorials by artists who I know were pretty good at what they were doing when they were sort of in their teens or whatever. But yeah, I don't think they would necessarily know about all the little struggles that someone who doesn't have any natural talent would have to face. Equally, if you've been in the game for a long time, like I think I was only 21 when I did my first how to draw book, and I think if you were my age now, you're in your 40s, 50s or whatever, if you're teaching how to draw, you might not remember how hard it was for you to learn certain things, and you might gloss over certain steps in the process because it's just, you're so far removed from it, you don't know what you're doing. I think the people that seem to get around that, the people that would do online tutorials who are in their sort of 40s or whatever, they tend to be people who teach classes anyway, sort of normally online. So they kind of can see the problems that their students are already having, and then they can address those in a guide. But yeah, back in the day, like I say, there was no YouTube, it wasn't classes. It was just like, you have to teach a book, and you don't know anything. You don't know the level of people at certain ages or whatever. You just have to go on what you know. So yeah, it's funny how much of a different time it was back then. It's only when you stop and reflect you realise just how insane life is, how it's changed so much, and yeah, it's very, very weird. So yeah, I'm now trying to think. So like I say, I was in my early 20s, doing my thing, pushing this digital art thing, doing a bit of web design, getting a few clients, having a few successes. But there would be times when things wouldn't work out. I remember just feeling like, okay, I'm not getting a living out of this. So I'm going to try and apply for an employed job, but doing art. I remember going to a job interview for this toy company that was fairly local to me, but they do a lot of sort of big international projects, or certainly national projects. And I remember going to an interview, and by chance one of the employees of the company had bought my how to draw book and knew who I was. I thought, oh wow, okay, well I'm going to get the job then. If one of the employees is using me as a guide of how they themselves should be working, then yeah, I'm definitely going to get this job. I ended up having the interview, didn't get the job. I ended up phoning up for some feedback after to ask why I didn't have the job. One of the reasons was they felt that my work was too specialised. It was too manga, and the portfolio wasn't diverse enough with different styles. Although I could have done different styles, I just didn't know. I just brought what I had. I didn't know that was a stipulation, because if they said we need a diverse range of styles, I could have gone away, done a bit more come back, and it would, I wouldn't have minded if that's all that was the problem. But that wasn't the only problem. The other problem was the fact that they said I didn't have a degree, I didn't have a qualification, I didn't have a university education. So after that, I thought it might be worth getting one. So then I went to uni for, originally it was going to be a 2-year course, a foundation course, and then I ended up turning it into a BA course, doing the full 3 years. And I did a little bit of art freelancing at the same time, and I ended up at the same time getting a part-time job doing web design for another company. And it's a weird one. I try and think, was it worth 3 years of my life to do that course? Because ultimately, at this stage, it didn't really pay off. Like, I think I went, because I think I went back to uni and ended up graduating in about 2006, 2007, about that sort of time. So it's been a long time since having graduated, and I'm trying to think, was there anything, or was there enough that made me feel like it was worth the course? I don't think so. There were some little things that I did learn that I might not have learned otherwise. I mean, if the internet existed like it did now, I would never recommend to myself to have taken the course, because you can just get an education online. Back in the day, you couldn't really get the same level of education that you can now. So sometimes you just make decisions based on what you know and what there is. But I mean, it wasn't just about the education. It was just about getting that bit of paper at the end of it. I mean, there were projects I remember working on at uni which I kind of thought were a bit pointless, but I wanted to just get a good grade. I wanted to graduate from this course, sort of getting towards the top of my class with the highest mark that I could get, like a first degree with honours. And I did that, but I don't know, like, I don't really think much of it now. I don't really even think it was a massive achievement. Like, I think at the time, the bigger achievement at the time was actually passing my driving test, because it took me like 5 tries to actually pass it. So there were a lot of failures in doing that, and each time was pretty devastating. So when I finally passed, that was massive. The uni stuff, it wasn't really much of an achievement. It didn't feel like it anyway. But after I finished, I thought, okay, well, I'm a little better armed now. I've got a bit more knowledge. I've got this piece of paper. Let's see if I can get an employed job. And I couldn't. I remember just putting my CV out to various companies relating to like graphic design and art and stuff. And, even though I was more qualified than I ever was when I first started out my artistic journey, I couldn't get anywhere. I went to this one agency and they suggested that my CV was too good and that I dumb it down, which on retrospect I think was some pretty stupid advice. For some jobs, sure, if you're a neuroscientist and you're trying to get a job as a cleaner or a waiter or a waitress, yeah, maybe you should not mention that, because they're just going to think that you're not going to stay the course if you're that well educated. But no, I think I don't even know what to think. I still don't know to this day. And I think might be my problem, and that this might be a problem that I've always had, which is in some way overestimating my ability and trying to understand kind of where I rank as far as being a professional artist goes. I think, it's one of these ego things where you want to feel as though you're worthy, because if you don't, you'll spend the entire time worrying that you're an imposter and that you don't deserve the work that you're getting, or the kudos or whatever it is. So yeah, maybe I just wasn't as competent as I thought. It's difficult. I mean, if I could maybe have asked, maybe I should have done this at the time. I mean, this is partly why I'm doing this video, to sort of reflect and to maybe work out where it went wrong. maybe I should have made the effort to go to graphic design studios, or even if emailing wasn't necessarily an option, it might have been. People did start having websites sort of by 2008 or whenever it was. So people had websites, people had emails. I could have contacted people, and maybe I should have contacted companies directly just to get reviews on my portfolios to see where I was going right or wrong. Or trouble is as well, I've always been a bit stubborn, and if people told me that I was no good, I would have this kind of, oh well, I'll show them, or oh, you don't know what you're talking about, I am good. And that's a bad habit that I probably could do with minimising. But at this stage, well, it's never too late to change, I suppose. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I think up until recently. Well, to continue the story, let's just say, and I suppose I could pad this out further in another talk. I kind of later ended up getting into tattooing for various reasons, and I thought I would try to become a tattoo artist. And this was probably around sort of 2010. I sort of had the idea of being a tattoo artist, and I ended up working part-time as a tattoo artist for about 10 years. So I tattooed hundreds of customers over that time. But even then, it never really took off. At one point, I started to think, oh, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll start by, I'll get an apprenticeship, and then I'll get good enough so that I'm earning more money, and then I'll get so good that I can open up my own shop, and then I'll get so good that I could open up 3 or 4 shops. And that just never really happened. I got good at tattooing in the end, but it was slow, and I think this is another reflection point, or a pause for thought, a consideration of why there was some degree of failure. Like, I don't learn quickly at all. It takes a long time for me to learn anything. So while other people can pick up, say, tattooing quite quickly, I've seen apprentices go from not knowing what the hell they're doing to really good quality artwork within about a year, whereas it took me about 5 years just to kind of understand how to get the ink to go in the skin. I kind of found my way to some degree, but as always, I was kind of making these kind of shortcuts, not fully understanding exactly why it was going wrong, and then having to kind of maybe go over the skin multiple times or whatever to compensate for the sort of lack of understanding. But I remember trying to again get an apprenticeship, and I was knocking on all the local tattoo shop doors back in the day. This was before, again, tattoos were as popular as they are now, and I must have gone to every shop like in the local area and beyond, and just didn't get anywhere. It was a funny mixture of like different responses, but I suppose I could talk about this another time, but yeah, it didn't work. So I had to kind of teach myself how to tattoo, and I think this is the trouble. Every time I've kind of tried to get help, either becoming a junior web designer and sort of learning on the job, or trying to get a job as a graphic designer, or as an illustrator for a toy company, or all these things I've had. Every time I've tried to reach out to get some assistance, it's for whatever reason not worked for me, and it might just be a personality thing. Maybe I just don't have the charm and charisma that's required for getting these kind of roles, or something else. I don't even know. But it didn't work out. But I don't know what it is. I guess this is another sort of success, I guess you could say, or positive, is the fact that this stubbornness where if someone says you can't do it or you're no good, it's like, oh, okay, I'll just figure it out myself then. So like with the websites, if you want to make a website, you'll have to learn it yourself. Or if you want to learn to tattoo, well, if no one's going to teach me, I guess I'll just have to learn it myself. So I think self-learning has really helped. The only trouble with that is it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's good if you are independent enough and willing to do that, willing to sort of sit down and try and educate yourself, because it's not easy when you don't have an instructor or anyone praising you or helping you when you get stuck. Yes, it's not easy, but yeah, if you can do that, I think it definitely helps. But the trouble is, when you do have someone that helps you, they can really guide you in the right direction. Again, I have this sort of stubbornness, this sort of disagreeability, where to some degree, I'm not highly disagreeable, but to some degree I am. So if people are trying to point things out, teach me, I have to go away and really consider, well, do you really know what you're talking about? Are you have I really made a mistake, or do you just not know what you're talking about? But if I could drop that for a second and get over myself, I would probably realise that there are a lot of experts out there that know a lot more than I do, and it would have been definitely worth my time spending. Yeah, it would have been worth spending my time getting mentored by someone who knew what they were doing, and I think that would have definitely progressed all aspects of the art career. So anyway, fast forward, tried the tattooing thing for a decade, ended up giving that up for various reasons. Again, I'll probably explain that on another occasion. And then I decided to sort of focus more heavily on selling prints of my work, art prints. So creating a piece of artwork and then just selling it for what it is. And I kind of thought this is great, because unlike when you're producing like a whole book or a comic or something like that takes months and months, I could potentially just create a single piece that would sell for pretty much the same as what a book would cost. So it seems like a great idea. The trouble is, it's a lot harder to sell artwork than it is to sell a guidebook or something that directly, obviously, easily benefits someone's life. Like conveying value. Like basically, people seem to like to buy stuff that's just going to make their lives immediately better or benefit them in some way. And I think most people look at every product for sale and just think, well, what does this do for me? How's this going to help me? And art is a really hard sell, because people could put anything on their walls in a frame and display any type of artwork in the world, and there's not a shortage of images. There's billions and billions of high quality images just floating around the internet that anyone could print off and put in a frame, or just pick up from any store that sells artwork. Whereas obviously a book, you're going to teach someone to be better at whatever it is they're trying to get better at, or a course or something like that. So I think really, I guess I'm kind of learning that selling products is hard, but it's a lot easier when it immediately benefits people. Because I think really what people want, and this is probably very obvious to people that sell anything, but they have that kind of seller mindset. I mean, I'm more of an artist and a daydreamer, so this doesn't necessarily come to me intuitively, but I'm kind of working out that if you can make someone more attractive, have more success in relationships, be healthier, earn more money, just gain more status in life, then anything that will do that, people will just throw money at you for. And unfortunately, art isn't really doing that. I mean, the only status games people play with art is fine art, where you can say, say to all your millionaire rich friends, I just bought this, £1 million painting, and now you can all think I'm amazing because I own this thing and it's valuable. But yeah, with the sort of artwork I do, you've really just got to connect with fans, and that's difficult. And I've had some success with it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've sold thousands of art prints, so it's not like people don't see the value in what I'm doing. But even in the sort of fan art sphere, like the thing that's on the screen at the moment, you've got to be really good to nail that. And if you're not really good, you need some other edge. So maybe you create videos or blogs or a social media feed that benefits people in other ways beyond above and beyond the artwork itself. So yeah, these are all kind of things I'm kind of learning. It just doesn't make sense to me. I always came from the sort of philosophy of, well, you build it and they will come. You make the good thing, and then that's it. It will sell itself. And maybe it does. Maybe if you're really good, if you are in that top 1%, that is very true. But most of us aren't in the top 1%. So what do you do when you're not great, but you are good, and you feel like maybe this is the only skill you've got, and you sort of identify as an artist and you want to do the art thing? It's like, okay, well, you're going to have to find ways to make it work beyond just producing a pretty picture. So that's basically brought me up to where I am now. So I'm just kind of trying to work out what the hell artists are supposed to do in the modern age. Because like I say, I've been dabbling with art related things, art and design related careers, professions, projects for a long time. I mean, I've done other things. It's never been like a full time of art. I mean, there's been times where I've been like a part-time online trader of like printers, video games. I was delivering pizzas for a point, working in a bar, working in a sort of as an order picker in a warehouse, working as a carer for a little bit. So I've had all these other little jobs at the same time. Never stuck at those because, well, they were never right fit for me. I always end up just coming back to the art and thinking, right, let's try and make this work, but let's try something slightly different. And I feel like I've got to a point now where it's almost like I know I need to try something different, but I feel like I've tried everything there is to try, or at least dabbled, and perhaps now is the time to sort of, I mean, I say dabble, I mean, is posting 1,000 times on social media dabbling? I mean, you'd kind of think, you would hope that after 50 posts you would get the idea whether or not people care about what you're doing and whether there's an audience for your product. But yeah, I guess I post, but I don't post with intent. When you sort of try to look up, well, how do I get more followers, or how do I get more reach, or how do I get more whatever? I mean, for me, it's not a vanity thing. I don't just want followers for followers' sake. I genuinely want to just find people that resonate with the work I'm putting out. But you ask how to do that, and it's generally not just posting. There's methods to it. You look at like a big name content creator like Mr. Beast, and he will sit down and break down, he would analyze every sort of word of text or thumbnail in a video, scrutinize the whole video production procedure in order to create a video that is going to go viral, that is going to get millions of views. If you enjoy that, great. I mean, I don't really want to be a video analyst or a internet content analyst and try and work this stuff out. And I don't, I bet I can barely listen to other people explain how to win followers, because a lot of it's just all the same fluff, and a lot of it's just, it's like they'll throw you a little, a little glimmer of advice, and you think, oh, that's quite good. And then there's always now, if you buy my course and you give me more money, I'll give you the true secrets. And you realise that a lot of the people that are attempting to give you advice are, well, they're doing, it's just a breadcrumb in order for them to sell you, lead you into selling you their course. And maybe the courses are great, but they often look like scams. And I've done a course which I wasn't particularly impressed with at one point, and I'll probably talk about that at some point as well, because I think there's a lot of lessons for anyone else to learn. And I guess that's the whole point of this video. It's me trying to figure out, okay, so where was I? What have I done? Where have I been? Where am I now? And then where am I going? And along the way, I would hope that a few people, even if 5 people think, okay, that's actually really useful, that's helped me quite a bit, then that's good. It makes it all worthwhile. I mean, recently I got into the point of, because a lot of the time I beat myself up and I think, oh, you know what, I have these moments of feeling like, yeah, I'm amazing, I can do everything, and then it's 10 minutes later I start to like cave in and think, no, actually you're a failure, you're no good at anything. I have all this self-doubt, insecurity, and in order to combat that insecurity that I also feel, I've started to screen capture when people give me a compliment, because I normally just brush it off. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but whatever. And I never really took compliments seriously, but I should have done, because people have gone out of their way to tell me that something I did helped them in some way, and I need to acknowledge that, and need to, instead of immediately thinking, oh yeah, well, it's not that great, we all do things that help people. It's like, oh, actually, I don't know, do people do things that help people? I mean, we all wish we were altruistic, helpful people that, we're being virtuous and kind to everyone we come across. But I mean, I'm not a lot of the time, but I try to be. And I should probably acknowledge then when, those efforts have been recognised. So yeah, that's something I've done. I started taking little screenshots of compliments and things. And in fact, that at some point I would like to share, like, not necessarily, not just to like, just look at me, look how great people tell me I am. It's not that. It's it is for the people that at times, you feel like dog shit, and you think, okay, I'm a useless piece of shit, I'm never going to crack this, I'm never going to succeed, whatever. I think there's a lesson there in when those times come, to sort of look back and think, okay, it's not all been wasted. There has been some positive things from even the failures. So I've also had some quite funny messages over the time, which would be quite good to share. I think as an artist, once you've been doing the art thing for years, I mean, like I say, let's just say, okay, if you've been doing it for years, at some point you're going to have funny little stories or funny little messages that will pop up, or it's just the same old stuff, which is kind of funny if you're an artist, just because you can relate, like how much do you charge for a picture, those kind of how long is a piece of string messages that every single artist that is worthy of being paid for their art gets asked a million times. And there's quite a few of those that I've had, and I'm sure people could relate. But so yeah, that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to figure out, where do I go from here? There's been a lot of stuff that's been done. Nothing's ever really seriously taken off. There's some vague fuzziness of kind of where I think I should go and what I think I've learned. And I think the more that I sort of talk through the process of what I've been through and what I'm seeing, the easier it will hopefully be for me to find a way forward. Because ultimately, what I would love is to just get to a point where I'm really nailing it. Because then when I am, I'm going to be giving back to everyone. Because I don't think I ever want anyone else to sort of go through this long, arduous, decades and decades long journey of trying to feel like they've kind of made it, or are comfortable, and meanwhile the whole time thinking like, this is impossible, this is difficult, this is, I can't do this, and despairing the whole time. It's not nice. I don't think artists should need to do that. To some degree, life's tough and you got to get on with it, and I get on with it. The amount of problems I've had, the things I've had to overcome, and just eventually pick myself up, dust myself off, and get back on with it. It has to be done, but it doesn't mean it's easy, and some people are going to find things harder than others, and everyone's different. But yeah, I think it would be good if I could, to the people that can't get there on their own, but are close. It would be good that if I could nail what I'm doing, really figure it out, and then pass that knowledge on. I would like to do that, because I think that was a good thing about doing the how to draw books. It's funny when people come up to me now and say, "Oh, I just want to tell you I got your book years and years ago, and it helped me with something." And it's a really good feeling to know that you've done something positive for someone, and you just feel like you're not just a leech that's just taking from the world. You're actually able to provide something, and the more I can provide, the better. But in order for me to be able to provide something of substance beyond, like a decent but not, the greatest of all time artist producing how to draw guides, if I can really, I really want to get to like what I like this kind of advice that I'm really proud of, that I think is kind of universal and timeless. I mean, I've had it a few times. I've got a blog that I write posts in on my website, and there's been a few posts that I've put where I thought, yeah, you know what, this post, I'm really happy with this. It's really concise, gives good information. This is good quality stuff. I mean, it's difficult because it doesn't get that many views. Like all the web pages on my website, I get like a total about 40 views a day. It's something, but it's not. I'm not getting comments all the time on the blog posts I'm doing, and it is difficult if I spend an entire day or 2 days writing a 1,000 to 2,000 word article that I've really kind of sat down and considered, and the thought of kind of knowing that it's had such a small reach is it's a bit demoralising. You do kind of feel like it's just a bit of a waste of time. So yeah, it's a lot of mixed feelings. Like, you want to put out good stuff, and you want to help people, and you want to get good at the thing that you're trying to get good at. But it's difficult when it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of work. And in the meantime, you've still got to live. You've still got relationships, family, friends, just bills to pay. And how do you navigate the space of doing the offline life stuff, but at the same time trying to build a thing either online or on the sort of career front? And it's difficult as well, because it's not just art that needs fixing. Not for me anyway, and probably not for most people. Everyone could improve on so many different levels, but I think it would be good if I could improve things like speaking skills, public speaking. I mean, there's been times, like some of the videos, if you go back and look at some of the, what I'm working on videos, like the ones I did quite recently, they're about a minute long. And the reason they're only a minute long is because I would sit down in order to put like a little video. I mean, it's only a small thing. It's like the YouTube equivalent of an Instagram post. I'm just saying, here's what I've done. Here's a step-by-step process of some artwork I did. But I get sometimes so stifled in that it takes me it takes me hours sometimes to prepare for it and get the words out just to do a minute long video, because I'm trying to figure out how to do this, to the point where it would have been better if I just did what I'm doing now and just start talking, start waffling, because eventually something will come out, and some of it might be useful, and you probably just have to practice talking, and that's how you get better. And when you're trying to kind of get, say a few lines in a single take and trying to do it perfect, and you over scrutinize it, being a bit of a perfectionist, this is a bit of a problem of mine. It's easy to just waste time creating these little videos. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know how like I say, most of my videos tend to get about 50 views, so it's not like I should be spending half a day putting out 1 or 2 minute long videos just for 50 people to acknowledge them. I mean, there's multiple reasons for doing videos. Part of it is for your own practice. It's the same with art. Like with a piece of art, unless it's just some random splattery abstract thing, but if it requires some skill, you need to go away and practice. You need to constantly be honing your craft, getting better. There is no limit to how good you can get, and so you need time to practice. And I guess a video like this is me practicing talking to some extent, because I know I suck at it, and if anyone has managed to make it this far in the video, well done. But yeah, something I'm going to work on. It's something that I want to work on, and it never hurts to be a better communicator. But in the meantime, yeah, it's going to be a long process, and like I say, it's difficult. It's difficult. Let's just say I wanted to be a YouTuber. I don't want to be a professional content creator. I realise I don't have the chops for it. But even if I did, there's basic math that you have to do. You have to look at how much time you're spending per day on creating videos, and how much money you're making, and how much money you need to make to cover your expenses, to live basically. And there's so many expenses to cover. You've got just basic, food and rent and keeping a roof above your head. But then you can't just do that if you want to have relationships with other people or friends, because you're going to need to go out, do things, travel places. So yeah, life's expensive, and I think it's a really difficult balance between doing what you kind of want to do and doing what you need to do to survive, and kind of figuring that out is difficult. And I think that's kind of where I've always struggled. So yeah, in an ideal world, I would just concentrate on producing artwork and somehow figuring that out. But at the same time, I've had to do other things, and probably will have to do other things in order to survive. So unfortunately, that's just how it is. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is probably, it's funny. I've had this YouTube channel for a while, and I feel as though, even though I've been doing the art thing for years, like I say, and even though I've had this channel for a while, it's only now in this video, and also I did a blog post about it on my website recently, where I'm kind of being a bit honest, and just honest with myself, that things have got to change, and really the journey starts here. So yeah, let's see how it goes.